So it's 1 a.m. and I'd really rather not be making this video, but if you have perused the Honkai Star Rail Reddit, there's this thread, which at the moment has 2.2 thousand upvotes, talking about how Cyrene is bugged. I regret to inform you that 2.2 thousand of you have no idea how the fuck this game works. This functionality may not be intended, but quite literally everything in the comments, every relic set, every light cone that people are trying to use to say that this is bugged is working exactly how it should. So today I'm going to talk about how target scope works, how buffs are applied, how allies are actually found to be targeted in any given scenario. And I'm also going to disprove every reason stated in this thread for why this is supposedly bugged. To start though, we need to talk about Demiurge, because Demiurge, when it is on the field, is considered out of bounds, meaning neither allies nor enemies can target it or select it in any capacity. There's a huge difference here between this and Netherwing, because a lot of people are going to say that, okay, well, what about Netherwing? Because Netherwing can't be targeted. Netherwing can be targeted. Netherwing just can't be blasted. But for the purposes of, like, if you took Gallagher and tried to use Gallagher's skill heal to target Netherwing, you can. Netherwing is still a target and an ally target. Netherwing just can't be targeted by enemies. But Demiurge can neither be targeted by allies nor enemies. With that distinction out of the way, let's start talking about the relic sets, in particular Amphorius and World Remaking Deliverer. And to make this comparison, I need to talk about Tribi real quick, because a lot of people these days have Tribi. A lot of people understand how she works, and so it's a very easy comparison to make, because Tribi's skill gives herself Numinosity, and while she has Numinosity, all allies gain Res Pen. But this Res Pen isn't a buff that's given to allies individually, it's a team buff. And it doesn't depend on any of the allies' turn durations, it's based on Tribi's own turn duration. So I want to make a distinction real quick when we talk about buffs. The difference between buffs that are given and team buffs that are just implicit for everyone in the team. Numinosity is a team buff. World Remaking Deliverer is also a team buff. There is no turn duration that is affixed to the buff that is given to your allies. It is purely a buff that is provided to the team as a whole, while World Remaking Deliverer is active because of the source that triggered it. Amphorius Land Eternal works similarly, because that one requires a memo sprite to be on the field, and similar to Numinosity, as long as that condition is met, the entire team gets that speed boost. This may be a little weird to say, but Numinosity is basically a zone. Let's call it a zone. Amphorius Land Eternal is a zone. World Remaking Deliverer is a zone. They are not buffs. They don't require targets. They are just implicitly provided to everyone. Because they are implicit for everyone in the team, that means Demiurge will get them. Any buff that is based on a condition rather than a turn duration is a team buff, and those will apply to Demiurge. Now, a huge difference here, though, is, say, in this current battle, I am just to the point where I can summon Demiurge with one more action. So I'm going to go ahead and do so. I'm going to throw away the buff on Gallagher for shits, but now we're on Gallagher's turn. Now Demiurge exists on the field, and we can see whatever buffs Demiurge has. None of these have turn durations affixed to it. There's technically an exception where Sunday has a target scope that targets child entities on a character, so Sunday would technically be able to apply some things to Demiurge by targeting fucking Cyrene, but not every character works like that. In regards to everyone else, everyone here should probably know Ho-Ho has an ultimate that gives all allies 40% attack, right? In most cases, this would apply to memo sprites. But because this has a turn duration affixed to it, when I do use it, we won't see that attack buff propagate to Demiurge. We'll see it here on Cyrene, but Demiurge won't have it. Now, Sparkle has Cypher, which is a buff provided by her ultimate that would, depending on her Eidolon, give an attack boost or any other number of things. It can also modify the damage boost from Red Herring, which is her talent, that gives her damage, whatnot. In any case, this grants all allies Cypher. But what this is really saying is it's saying it grants all ally targets Cypher. And the reason you know that is because, once again, there is a turn duration affixed to the ultimate. Now, if I use the ultimate, we can see that Cyrene will have Cypher, but guess who doesn't? You want to know what Demiurge does have? Demiurge has the crit fucking bonus from Sparkle's Light Cone. But do you want to know why this is different? Because Sparkle's Light Cone is a zone. It gives her mask, and it's based on her duration, but it's a team buff. And so this is just my attempt to try and get you to understand that team buffs will apply universally, but duration-based buffs require a target. Because a duration-based buff, if it applies to the whole team, it will evaluate every team member, see if they're a target, and then give it to them if so. And so Demiurge does not get Cypher, but because Sparkle's Light Cone triggered Mask, she does get the crit rate and crit damage because it's a zone. Furthermore, to drive that home, we know that in Sparkle's kit, because of Red Herring, it makes it so whenever an ally consumes a skill point, all allies' damage increase by a certain amount, and that stacks. But in this case, now, we're going to spend a skill point on Gallagher by choosing to heal her. And when we do that, we're going to see these fucking damage bonuses propagate. And so, she has Red Herring on Cyrene, but if we go and switch to Demiurge, once again, we don't see it. And that's because Demiurge is not a fucking target, and because Red Herring has a duration affixed to it that is unique to every person it is applied to. Anything that has a duration is a targeted buff. Anything that doesn't have a duration is a team buff. And these are very, very different things. Now, once again, Sunday is a pretty unique exception to this because his target scope includes memo sprites. So you're able to do some very different things with Sunday. But for everyone else, is she bugged? No, people just don't fucking get this game. Ugh. The other things people used in that discussion to try and say why it's bugged is Victory in a Blink. But Victory in a Blink, now that I've clarified how this all works, says when the wearer's Memo Sprite uses an ability on an ally target, increases the damage dealt by all ally targets by 16% lasting for 3 turns. So not only does this clarify that it's looking for targets, but it's also got a turn duration affixed to it, which we already know isn't fucking happening. If we look at Arcadia of Woven Dreams, this one says when the number of ally targets on the field is not equal to 4, then you get your bonus. But this is specifying that it's looking for a target. You know who the fuck isn't a target? Demiurge. And lastly, the other most common thing I would see people say didn't work, the Herta Shop Light Cone. But if we read this, we see that the wearer uses skill, increases the damage dealt by all allies by 8%, lasting for 3 turns. And once again, we have a turn duration affixed to the buff, meaning it is a targeted buff, and since Demiurge is not a target, it cannot apply. Now, before people get up in arms, I'm not saying that the MOC isn't bugged, because the MOC verbiage does explicitly say when the ally character has any summons, this unit and summons gain a 40% damage boost. But because it's not necessarily a team buff, it's probably working the same way as a targeted buff would. And since again, Demiurge isn't a target, it's not getting applied. Is that an oversight? Probably. This is phrased fucking terribly, I'll give you that. But is she bugged in how she functions in any capacity that I'm aware of based on the buffs and all this shit in the thread? Fuck no. In closing, am I saying that she should work this way? No. Is it stupid? Yeah, it's fucking dumb. But is she bugged? No. Also, for those who are probably curious about the website in the background that I was showing at different points, it is my own. So I'll go full sell out for a moment. If you watched the very last video I made, I talked about what this will accomplish as a complete, full battle simulator and team optimizer.